Hi book lovers, I've not been creating much videos in the past because I was reading this book by Christopher Reeves, you know, the guy from Superman, Superman 123, and the book is called Still Me. It was a really hard book for me to finish. I really took my time. I spent around maybe a couple of pages per day to read it, and the reason why I did so is because of how hard it was to try and imagine what Christopher had to go through. It's just so much pain and challenges that I can't even imagine the life he had to lead all the way up to the last days that he had on Earth. So the thing is how he actually got into the accident, right? He was Superman one day, and the next he was someone that needed all the world's assistance that he can use because he was paralyzed from the neck down. So he broke his C1, C2, which is where maybe the closest you can get to your brain, right? And if he broke anything above it, right, he would have just died instantly. Well, he broke C1, C2, and that was the nerve system that connects to the rest of the body. And of course, when he fell, that bone shattered and it cuts across all of the nerve systems, and he was immediately paralyzed at the spot when he fell. So how did he fall? I find it very challenging to explain this to anyone, including my family and friends who have not read the book yet, but I'm encouraging everybody to read it. So he was riding a horse, and he was riding this horse called Buck that he bought from another owner. And at the time, Christopher Reeves was racing horses. So he was in between movies, and he decided to enter a competition one day with his horse, Buck. So now Buck, well, I guess he was a very well-trained horse. But at the time, you know, Chris was practicing on him for so long that the horse had a little bit of a sore on the back. So what Chris did was he increased the saddle and he attempted a jump. So when they were approaching the jump, I think it was called the fly jump. Yeah, it's not a high jump, it's more of like a distant jump between the railings. And when he was riding towards the railing, Chris positioned himself forward. So when the horse jumps forward, right, you need to kind of position yourself forward, and when the horse gets over the other side of the rails, you have to kind of lean backwards. You know, it's that kind of motion thing. So Chris leaned forward, and at the same time he hung to the ropes as tight as you can, because during horse racing, right, if you do fall off the horse, you waste around 60 points, or 50 or 60 points, and that's a lot, right, during the competition. So he didn't want to fall off. So everything happened at the moment where he was about to jump with Buck, and suddenly Buck did a dirty stop. Dirty stop means the horse just stops there and then, and Chris just flew forward, but his hands were stuck to the ropes, which made him go upside down, and he landed on his head. Oh my gosh, he landed on his head at an angle where it shattered C1, C2. Now later on in the book, a doc did investigation on his fall and said that if he were to, lean his head or his body a little bit more, he could have died. And if he leaned it the other way, just a little bit more, he could have possibly walked off with a bad injury to the neck, right? He could have survived it, and then he could have healed and become normal again. But in this case, he landed at an exact angle where it shattered C1, C2, and he became paralyzed along the way. Oh, what? So the book was interesting. I've never experienced it before, but when I was reading the passage from chapter to chapter, he was explaining the fall and the whole experience towards the fall, and to the last full stop. The next sentence was him waking up at the hospital. I thought I was missing a page, or the page got torn out, but it was done intentionally. It was that experience that he had, that blackoutness, that loss of memory in between fall and waking up, that I felt through the book. And you got to experience those two sentences. I think Chris really did try and put it into words and into the motion of the sentences, the flow of the sentences, that made me kind of imagine myself in his shoes. And the book went on to explaining how he had to rely on the doctors and the challenges he had in the hospital. So you can have a read of the book. I'm not going to share much on this, but it's just agony, challenges for him to try and get his muscles back. I mean, he could feel just a little bit of tinge in his palms or his neck, but he couldn't feel anything else in his body. And if he doesn't get his body into motion, which in this case he can't, the body will go into atrophy where the muscles break down, and eventually he'll lose his muscles, right? The muscles that literally decays and breaks away, right? So they had to massage him all the way through. He had to go for physio and challenges after challenges. They promised that he could get back on his feet again, and he can't. Because of the way the body works, right? The nervous system is so complex. So the book did a turn into his life, and I'm just amazed. When it comes to Superman, I believe Christopher Reeve is a Superman, a real life Superman on Earth. He is really a real life Superman, and the Superwoman next to him is his wife, who stood by him all the way through. So they are both basically my heroes today. After reading the book, I just can't explain it, and I know Chris went through a whole lot of pain that just goes beyond the term Superman or hero, right? And he went on to beat all odds and tried his best to get on his feet again, but he couldn't. He risked. He explained how he was challenged to attend the Oscars, and every single bump on the road could dislodge maybe his heart pacer or his air pump that could cause him to die immediately. So he was relying on the machines that he had behind his wheelchair to keep him alive, and this happened for years on end. And that idea alone is just agonizing for me. And he just went on with life, and there was a moment in the book where I was imagining myself like, if you were in his shoes, just imagine this, right? You are in the bed you're in a hospital bed, and you're just there, and you can't move your body, and your mind is just stuck in this body. But when you go to bed, you can dream, and like what he explained in one of his dreams, he could sail, he could run, he could be in the woods, he could do whatever he wanted to, like how he did when he was younger, because he was actually a very sporty person. And the minute he woke up, and because of the medication and the pain he was going through, he sleeps very little hours. He wakes up at 2 a.m. and he sees the hospital ceiling, and this white machine on the right, this pacemaker that tells his heart rate, his heartbeat, his oxygen level, and all of this machinery shows him whether he's okay or he's in danger. And if he's in danger, the doctors only has this very short amount of time to save him. And he can't move, he can't do anything. He's stuck in this body. The only thing he had is his mind and his imagination. That is deep stuff. I think this is like, besides one of the other book that was written in the time of the Holocaust, this is probably the next book that was very hard for me to read, and I encourage all y'all to read it. But I think at the end of it all, the book just expresses the human spirit, the importance of just living in the now and being with people who mean a lot to you, because in times of trouble, like in this case, there were people who loved him so much and was with him all the way, and that made all the difference. He was able to see his kids play baseball in his wheelchair and still be able to engage with them, and lived every bit of life to the fullest that he could in such an ordeal circumstance. I just learned, if I were to have a takeaway from the book was that just be grateful for whatever you have today. The minute you think that you have life is not treating you well, or you have things that you can't have, any material things. I mean, material things, we all know that it's just temporary, but always try and remember that good things are happening to you every single moment. You just have to be open to seeing it, and that's what the book actually taught me. So I'm glad that I got to share this with you. Got to get it off my chest. I will encourage you to read it. I got this book from my sister, so I'm passing on to you just to say that, check this book out. It's really hard read, but it will change your life. Till the next video, subscribe and keep on reading.